almost 3 decades, it has been one of the nation's premier sports facilities, and it continues on into the 90s. The Astrodome in Houston, Texas, and once again, the world's best monster trucks have massed inside the Astrodome to go for one of the most prestigious victories on the U.S. Hot Rod Association circuit, the big trophy from the Astrodome. Hi again, everyone. I'm Scott Douglas. You can see former world champion Barefoot. There's another former world champion, Taurus. Bigfoot's here. It's a star-studded field ready to go in the Astrodome. We'll begin with the monster truck qualifying round. Now, these time trials will actually set the way we'll determine the brackets for the first round of side-by-side racing competition today. You get a look at Taurus, Granite City, Illinois, the home for Jack Willman's racing team, and the Taurus Chevrolet is on the clock. Into the turn. The turning course in the Astrodome always proves for some unique thrills. Here comes Taurus to the car. Outstanding run for Jack Willman and the Taurus Chevrolet. Let's go to the replay as Jack Willman made the turn in great shape. You can see on the brakes just enough to make the turn cleanly, but he didn't lose that much momentum. And Taurus comes over, rolls the hill, and the Chevy power takes over. Leaps and barely touches the last car. That is a beautiful run. Jack Willman, Taurus, 13.50. Let's see if anybody can get close to Taurus's time here in the Astrodome today on Super Trax. Well, one of the big, bad Texas trucks that's here today, Paul Huffaker. Pablo Huffaker, they call him, just showing off the name of the Ford truck. Huffaker, a native Texan, would love to be able to upset the big names in the sport, Taurus, Barefoot, Bigfoot, and the like, right here in front of the home folks today. Into the turn. Let's see how Huffaker handles that turn. Good shape for Pablo Huffaker. Oh, he really hit the hill hard. Not a bad run at all, but that certainly cost him some time. As Huffaker hit that hill, watch how it knocks him straight up in the air. Here it comes. He's okay off the turn, but bang, he gets launched. The front wheels go straight up. That means a hard landing. He gets right back on it, though. It didn't lose that much time. Just showing off, almost went over sideways, brings her back down. The run is 15.75 seconds. So Huffaker is safely into the first round of competition as he makes a legal qualifying run. Another Texas truck. This is Rob Morris, the four-wheel crazy Ford from Burleson, Texas. Former U.S. Hot Rod Rookie of the Year. Looking for the green light. And he's on. All right, four-wheel crazy sometimes has problems with turning courses. Let's watch it. Nice and smooth there. Good looking run for Rob Morris and four-wheel crazy. Watch it on the replay. Did a nice job off the turn, rolled the hill, and then launch it up the ramp and over the cars. That's a good looking run. Four-wheel crazy and Rob Morris, 15:32 his time, so he's still a couple of seconds off the time laid down by Jack Willman and Taurus. Well, here comes Jim Thomas and the Master of Disaster Chevrolet. Doug Spanier fields two trucks, Master of Disaster and Barely Tame. Thomas behind the wheel of the Master of Disaster. We'll see Spanier out in Barely Tame a little bit later. This is the Chevrolet out of Albany, Minnesota, the Master of Disaster. Former champion of the only three-lane monster truck race ever back in Dallas, Texas, at Texas Stadium a couple of years ago. Here comes the Master of Disaster. Boy, really lost a lot of momentum on that hill. Tries to make up for it on the back end, but that's not going to pick him up a whole lot of time. Boy, he really seemed to lose a lot on the hill. If it weren't for how much he had to slow down on the hill, Master of Disaster might have been the fastest time out there today because he laid down a good one. Master of Disaster at 13.80, despite slowing down that badly in the turn, is just 0.3 of a second off the fast time laid down by Taurus. Well, here's Andy Brass and the Bigfoot Ford out of Bob Chandler's Bigfoot stable in St. Louis, Missouri. The original monster truck, Bigfoot, is ready to go. We talked about former world champions. This is a guy that's got a world championship trophy hanging on his mantelpiece. Andy Branson, Bigfoot. Look at the way the suspension reacts, how that truck goes up and down, and the body just settles on the chassis. Here he comes to the car. Bigfoot laying down the shot right there. Again, slowed coming off the turn. And really had no momentum at all as he rolled down the backside of that hill. Tried to pick up the pace at the back end of the run, but all in all, I don't think Andy's going to be real happy with a 15.5, a full 2 seconds slower than the run of Jack Willman and Taurus. Well, we mentioned Doug Spaniard's Barely Tame team. Here is the Barely Tame Master of Disaster partner. It is Barely Tame. The big Ford, Albany, Minnesota's hometown. And Doug Spaniard will now try to match the outstanding run his teammate Jim Thomas had a little bit earlier. Waiting for the green light on Barely Tame. Really slows in the turn. Now will come around. Boy, he's losing some time here. Well, unfortunately, Barely Tame checks in with about the slowest run we've seen. 18.1 is going to be the time for Barely Tame in the Ford out of Albany, Minnesota. So Doug Spaniard's racing team has one good shot and one that I'm sure he's very unhappy with, as Master of Disaster is near the top. Barely Tame dead last right now in qualifying. Another Texas truck. This is Marty Garza from McAllen, Texas. The 1990 Ford he calls Overkill. Time to beat remains the Taurus Chevy-powered GMC at 13.50. Second fastest is Master of Disaster, a Chevrolet, at 13.8. Let's see if Marty Garza can put his Ford in the upper crust. Marty decides to slow early and try and keep a little wheel speed in the turn, but now he's almost come to a complete stop. Rolls the hill. He's got to launch it off the back end. And he does. A good finish for Marty Garza in Overkill. We'll see where the time ends up. Watch as soon as he comes off the hill, Garza really hammers it. He was bouncing, didn't let it slow him down. Good finish for Marty Garza. Not a bad lap at all. 14 seconds flat puts him in the upper half of the competition. Well, when you talk about all-stars, you talk about former world champions, you talk about this guy right here. Fred Schaefer, Pontoon Beach, Illinois, and the Barefoot Chevrolet. Barefoot and Taurus have really had a running rivalry going these last few years. And Barefoot, every time he gets behind the wheel, wants to outdo whatever Taurus has done. He'll have to go better than 13.50 to beat him in qualifying today. In the turn, Schaefer looks smooth. Here comes Barefoot. Boy, he lost some time there. He's not going to be happy with this run at all. Very slow, I would say, in comparison to Taurus. We'll watch the replay and get the time. But he did not look at all as smooth as Willman did earlier in the competition. Fred Schaefer and Barefoot, though, is safely in the field, and that's the main thing that matters. Barefoot at 14.96 is qualified for the competition. Taurus tells him how to go at the Astrodome. 13.5 seconds. Master of Disaster, surprising number 2, followed by Overkill, Barefoot, Four-Wheel Crazy, Bigfoot, just showing off, and Barely Tame. 8 have qualified in the Astrodome, but setting the pace, Jack Willman and Taurus. He's going to be taking them into the side-by-side action in just a little bit here on Super Trax. The superstars from the four-wheel drive truck pulling division of the U.S. Hot Rod Association are ready to take on the track at the Superdome in New Orleans. Star-studded field. Boy, there you see the glow off the beautiful pumpkin. Some of the others, the Doe Runners, showing everybody the body styling on that big, beautiful four-wheel drive truck. This competition ought to be super close and double tough. The Night Rider's going to get a start at 1990 Chevrolet. Mitch Adams will be our first competitor on the track at the New Orleans Superdome. The test puller is Mitch Adams in the Night Rider, as the Chevrolet will be first out. He's hooked to the sled. Now just going to take the slack out. Here he goes. Mitch Adams in the Night Rider. And the pull right there for Mitch Adams and the Night Rider. Let's look at it again on the replay. There you can see Adams taking it down. Pulls it all the way out in pretty good shape, but he only gets 70 feet on it. They only listed at 70 feet on that pull. Ambush will be up next. This is Bill Gilbert. Bill comes out in a 1940 Chevrolet. And you can see the U.S. Hot Rod Association track crew telling Ambush to go ahead and take the slack out. And Bill Gilbert will now try to pull that sled as far as he can up the track at the New Orleans Superdome. He'll need to set the pace, as Night Rider could only get 70 feet out of it. So there you go with Bill Gilbert and Ambush. 151 feet and change is where he's going to come in at. Bill Gilbert, the 1940 Chevrolet known as Ambush, 151 feet, 11 inches. That is now the distance to beat. The Junkyard Dog is scheduled to come out next. This will be Terry Thruston, another classic, if you will, 1955 Chevrolet, the body styling, as the crowd in New Orleans having a good time. Love seeing themselves up on the big screens here in the Superdome. As the fans all get a chance to wave, they're ready now to watch the Junkyard Dog try to take the lead away from that 1940 Chevrolet. Just that. The Junkyard Dog easily blows past the 150-foot mark, past the 175-foot mark to be exact. And Terry Thruston and the Junkyard Dog checking in with a distance of 177 feet, 5 inches. He is the new leader. But boy, does he get a serious threat right off the bat. Tony Osteen and the Georgia Rebel Ford out of West Green, Georgia. Here's a guy who's got a lot of trophies on the mantelpiece. He's won a lot of individual competitions. He's won point series and organizations all across the country, battling for the world title here on the U.S. Hot Rod Association Tour. Tony Osteen, a good old boy from West Green, Georgia, needs to beat 177. And he blows it past the full pull line. That's it. That's the signal from the finish line flagman. A full pull for Tony Osteen and the Georgia Rebel Ford. There's your new leader, West Green, Georgia's Tony Osteen, with a full pull. We'll see if anybody can force him into a pull-off. The first to try, the Just Fine 1972 Chevrolet and Marty Smith. And Smith on the track backing up, and he's going to have his work cut out for him now, because you have to get a full pull to force Tony Osteen to come back for a pull-off. Otherwise, without a full pull, you're not going to win here today at the Superdome. Oh, what a great crowd we've got at the Superdome today. Just Fine going after it now, Marty Smith. He sure enough did it right there. Marty Smith and the Just Fine Chevrolet looking fine right there. Just blew past that full pull marker. There it is. The checkered flag signifies a full pull, and Marty Smith left no doubt. We know we'll have a pull-off now because Smith and Osteen have qualified for it. Well, that's 2 in a row with full pulls. Let's see if it'll keep up. The Pumpkin, big, beautiful 1989 Dodge. Larry Harrison is up next, trying to make it 3 for the pull-off. Osteen's in, Smith's in. Here comes the Pumpkin. track's getting better or the trucks are getting finer because they're going a little farther each shot, and the Pumpkin gets it done right there. Larry Harrison's Dodge will join the Ford of Tony Osteen and the Chevrolet of Marty Smith in a three-way pull-off, and there may be more coming. Here comes the Monkey Business 1990 Ford of Frank Young. He wants to get on that track while it's hot. 3 straight full pulls at the Superdome in New Orleans. Let's see if Monkey Business can make it an even quartet. All right, he's got the slack out. Ready to go with Monkey Business. Banged it out of the Superdome. Frank Young and Monkey Business. Here we go on the replay. He's getting a little bounce in the middle of the track, but it didn't hurt him at all. And Monkey Business has plenty of power to blow past the checkered flag, and it's going to be at least a 4-way pull-off. And here's another guy, very, very capable of making it a 5-way pull-off. Dwayne Bathke, the STP Pulling Team Chevrolet. Boy, the fans are getting their money's worth in the Superdome as these big, bad 4-wheel drives are just banging this sled out past that finish line. Dwayne Bathke, STP from Seguin, Texas, is ready to go. Went past the full pull mark. He started to take it out and see if he could find Bourbon Street. The STP Pulling Team Chevrolet is our 5th straight U.S. hot rod competitor to get it out of here in the Superdome. So Bathke will come back later in the pull-off. And we've still got more. The Doe Runner, another top-running Chevrolet. This is Roy Everett, 87 model Chevrolet. He's going to go all the way to the right-hand side of the track as the puller faces it and see if he can get a good bite on the outside. The Doe Runner would love to be the 6th straight truck to join the pull-off field as the hot streak continues in New Orleans. Here comes the Doe Runner. This is absolutely incredible. It looked like he hit the brake as soon as he got past the line, but he's got enough. The Doe Runner is the 6th consecutive puller to get a full pull in the Superdome. Wow. They are showing off the horsepower in the dome. 6 straight have taken it out. Well, Super Chevy, the 86 Chevrolet of Steve Greer, he's got a lot of pressure on him now. Nobody wants to snap the string of making the pull-off. 6 in a row have done it. Let's see if the Super Chevy can make it a lucky number 7. 6 right now have qualified for the pull-off. Steve Greer is up in the Super Chevy. And so close to that 180-foot mark, which signifies a full pull, but he is going to come up just a little bit short. Man, you talk about disappointing. Steve Greer, the Super Chevy, misses the pull-off by 4 inches. These 6 will go to the pull-off. The Georgia Rebel, STP, the Doe Runner, the Pumpkin, Just Fine, and Monkey Business. It'll be a dandy pull-off a little bit later as you look at the rest of the results here on Super Trax. But there's more than pulling. Back with the action in just a moment. Let's just switch domes here on Super Trax. From the Superdome, we're back in the Astrodome in Houston for first round side-by-side racing for the monster trucks. It'll be Taurus taking on 4-Wheel Crazy. Then a battle of Texas trucks, Overkill and Just Showing Off. Barefoot will take on Barely Tame, and the Master of Disaster with Doug Spanier moving behind the wheel will take on Bigfoot. First matchup is now set. Closest to you, it's Rob Morris and the 4-Wheel Crazy Ford the former world champion Taurus Chevrolet-powered GMC, and Jack Willman is his opponent. There's Taurus. As Willman is ready, he was the fastest qualifier. Taurus loves turning courses, and the Houston Astrodome is no exception. Both drivers waiting on the green flag. The winner moves on, the losers on the trailer. Look at the lead Taurus has already. Jack Willman in firm control. Not surprisingly, it is all Taurus. As a wild ride at the end for four-wheel crazy, he settles it down, but he's defeated nonetheless. Look at the lead Taurus amassed on the first half of the course, and then does he bang it out at the end. Jack Willman with the win will move in to the second round, the semifinals coming up later. All right, Pablo Huffaker brings out just showing off. Huffaker, a veteran of several years monster truck racing, one of the legends from the Texas area in the monster truck sport back in its early days. Huffaker now ready to try and take on one of the newer Texas trucks. This is Marty Garza and Overkill. Marty out of McAllen, Texas. Overkill builds a little bit of a lead into the turn. Boy, Huffaker having a big problem making the turn, a lot of bounce. Marty Garza and Overkill by about the length of a truck. Oh, Huffaker almost lost it at the end of the run, but shuts it down just in time. On the replay, you can see Huffaker was bouncing up and down, and that was all Marty Garza needed to put him away. Overkill will get a date with Taurus in the semifinal round. Barefoot Chevrolet on the top of your screen from Pontoon Beach, Illinois. That's former world champion Fred Schaefer. He'll take on the Ford out of Albany, Minnesota, Jim Thomas, and the Barely Tame Ford. Thomas has now moved behind the wheel of Barely Tame. Again, this is one of Doug Spanier's trucks out of Albany, Minnesota, and Spanier and Thomas have been known to change behind the wheel. Sometimes one drives the master, sometimes the other. Today now, Thomas is back behind the wheel of Barely Tame. Doesn't look like he's going to be behind the wheel for long because Barefoot's putting him away. All Freddie Schaefer in this first round matchup. The Barefoot Chevrolet dispatches the Ford from Minnesota. This one was all Barefoot. You could see the size of the lead once he got over the hill. It was all she wrote for the Barely Tame Ford. Barefoot moves into the semifinals. So Taurus, Overkill, and Barefoot are in the semifinal round. Who will join them? Will it be the legendary Bigfoot? Bigfoot comes in with one of the slower qualifying times, remember. Doug Spanier and Master of Disaster, actually the second best qualifying time so far today. Let's see if Master can back it up. Now as he has to look across the Astrodome and see that he's racing Andy Brass and Bigfoot. Foot's got a big lead early. El Brass missed the turn. Bigfoot missed the turn. And Master of Disaster, who is not having a good run, will move into the semifinal if he can keep it from going on its route. Stunning upset right there. Bigfoot just locked him up and missed the turn. Andy Brass slides completely off the course. And the Master of Disaster records the upset in the Houston Astrodome. Put Doug Spanier in the semifinals and get a hook for Bigfoot. He's going on the trailer and heading back to St. Louis. Wow, did that stun the crowd here in the Astrodome? So, in the first round, Taurus whips four-wheel crazy. Overkill beats Just Showing Off. Taurus and Overkill are set to meet. Barefoot over Barely Tame. The Master of Disaster stuns Bigfoot. Master of Disaster will meet Barefoot later on Super Trax. Now we take you to Long Island, New York, the Nassau Coliseum. Uniondale is the site, and mud racing is the competition on the U.S. Hot Rod Association Tour. Hi again, everyone. Scott Douglas back with you now for mud racing action from the Nassau Coliseum. Lots of fans getting a lot of pictures of these exotic mud racers, and now they're going to see them in action. one at a time. Well, that fan got a shock. Maybe she was surprised to see Midnight Magic out so quick. Dave Ray ready to go in Midnight Magic. Now, the mud racing sport is pretty simple, frankly. The mud pit is 80 feet long. You have to go through it as fast as you can. Then you have 80 feet to stop. If you go past the 80-foot mark trying to stop, you're disqualified. If you leave the mud pit, you're disqualified. Otherwise, it's elapsed time that determines who the winner is. Midnight Magic. Good-looking run for Dave Ray right off the bat. Watching it again on the replay. He explodes through the mud, did not sink in at all. Was able to skirt across the top, and Dave Ray has a super run to get us started. 1.916. He hopes that'll be good enough to make the Fast Four. The top four go into the shootout and come back to go for the win later. Insanity and Jeff Acker will come up next. Acker would love to beat that 1.916, but most importantly right now is to try and put yourself in the Fast Four. He'll move up now and get to that starting line, and then when he takes off, it breaks the beam at the starting line, and he breaks the beam at the finish line, and boy, look at that. That is what you call cutting it close, friends. A super run for Insanity, but watch at the finish. He ends up about an inch from being disqualified. If he would have touched that barrier, he'd have been DQ'd. Instead, it's a great run. 1.896. Insanity sits number one right now. The psychotic beast, Mike Spina, will be coming at us next out of New Hampshire. He'll be dropping that faceplate. There he goes. Spina knows he's got to get under 2 seconds to have a shot at these guys as they're laying some shots down here in the Nassau Coliseum. I don't know. Didn't look like it was up to the speed that we saw out of Insanity and Midnight Magic. The psychotic beast of Mike Spina comes across the finish line. It's not a bad run. It is under 2 seconds. Look at that, 1.978. So I'm going to tell you that I was fooled just a little bit. He sits third, yet I don't know if that'll be enough to hang on to a top four spot, because look at the level of competition still to come. Like this guy right here. You are getting a look at the Super Trooper. This is Tom Martin, 3-time world champion out of Portage, Indiana. He'll pull to the line and get ready to go. Tom Martin. That's why they call him the Super Trooper. I mean, that's all you can say. Sensational run. He covered it in a heartbeat and stopped it inches from the out-of-bounds line. There is no doubt that run's going to land in our top four. I'll tell you what, that is going to land right now as number one. Super Trooper at 1.890. Tom Martin, where he's accustomed to being, he sits number one. Insanity's at 1.896, then Midnight Magic at 1.916, and right now on the bubble is Psychotic Beast at 1.978. Those are the top four. Mystic Warrior is coming at you next. Preston Ward behind the wheel. And he shuts her down in plenty of time. The Mystic Warrior, pretty good looking run. We'll check the clock for Preston Ward, but pretty good looking. Probably isn't going to get you in the Fast Four. These guys are just laying down great runs here in the Nassau Coliseum. Indeed, here's a perfect example. That's a good run for the Mystic Warrior, but it won't make the Fast Four. 2.037 for Preston Ward and the Mystic Warrior. That is outside of the top four. As a matter of fact, for right now, it is no better than in the number 5 spot, and there are still several top competitors still to go. Hey, you like this paint job with Bart Simpson gracing the side? This is Rich Marcin and Naturally Wired. Shuts it down in time. Naturally Wired, Rich Marcin. Another outstanding run right there. We just need to see where he ends up in terms of the clock time. And boy, on the replay, you can see he locked it up in time. 2.054. That's only 6th best here today. It'll be the Fast Four, Super Trooper, Insanity, Midnight Magic, and Psychotic Beast. Those are the four that'll make the shootout today on Super Trax. Earlier today on Super Trax, we showed you the first round of four-wheel drive modified truck pulling competition. Well, now we're back in the Superdome, and the 6 trucks that made full pulls will come back for the pull-off in this order: Georgia Rebel, then Just Fine Chevrolet, the Pumpkin Dodge, then Monkey Business, STP, and the Doe Runner. First up, several times a point champion in various organizations of pulling, looking for that world championship in U.S. hot rod competition. We're talking about Tony Osteen and the Georgia Rebel Ford. This will be the distance to beat, and on a heavier sled, they added weight to the sled. That looks like an outstanding run for Tony Osteen. The distance comes in at 166 feet, 1 inch. Remember, this is a heavier sled than they pulled with earlier. But the only way we're going to find out how good the pull is to watch everybody else come take a shot at it. Up now, it's Marty Smith and the Just Fine 1972 Chevrolet. Not going to be enough. It's a little bit short. There on the replay, I don't see any particular problem with the run. Got a little bit sideways midway through the track. That may have cost him a little distance, but still, Osteen has him covered. 160 feet, 2 inches for Marty Smith, so he's in second right now. Here's Larry Harrison and the Pumpkin, the 1989 Dodge. Man, he lands right where Marty Smith was just a minute ago in Just Fine. So he's not going to get the lead, and I don't know if he took second away from Marty Smith. Wow, look at this. Marty Smith had a 160 and 2 inches. The Pumpkin goes 160 and 3 inches, so he moves into second by 1 inch. Still, Osteen, the Ford, is the leader. Here comes Monkey Business. This is Frank Young in the 1990 Ford. No, that's a little short. That didn't quite make the 160 mark. As Monkey Business, trying the far right side of the track, doesn't get a whole lot out there. And his distance will put him, at least for the moment, in 4th place. And it could even be worse than that. 158 feet, 7 inches for Frank Young and Monkey Business. Chevrolet and the Chevy fans are getting behind Dwayne Batesky and the STP Special, hoping he can knock off the Ford of Tony Osteen. Boy, he's very close to that flag that has been stuck in the ground to signify where Osteen went, but he did not quite get there. The Chevrolet is going to come up a couple feet short. Dwayne Batesky from Seguin, Texas, in the STP Special is second for the moment at 164 feet, 8 inches. Well, it's either Ford or Chevy in the winner's circle. The Ford has the lead. Here comes the final competitor in the pull-off, the Doe Runner Chevrolet. That's not gonna do it. Roy Everett and the Doe Runner may get third, but he'll not win it. The Doe Runner Chevrolet trying to stretch it out, but he bogs down before he can get near the 165-foot mark. And again, Osteen went over 166. The run is 161 feet, 6 inches for the Doe Runner and Roy Everett. There is your Superdome champion on Super Trax. Tony Osteen and the Georgia Rebel Ford wins it. Dwayne Batesky, the STP Special Chevrolet, is second. The Doe Runner Chevy third. The Pumpkin Dodge fourth. Just Fine Chevrolet is fifth. And the Monkey Business Ford ends up sixth in the pull-off from the Superdome. More action coming up on Super Trax. Back with you on Super Trax at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island in Uniondale, New York. We're ready for the mud racing shootout, as it'll be these four: Midnight Magic, Insanity, Super Trooper, and Naturally Wired. Now, if you'll remember earlier, Psychotic Beast actually had the fourth best time, but he is having mechanical problems. Psychotic Beast and Mike Spina not able to come back, so Naturally Wired moves up into the fourth spot. First, we look at Dave Ray and Midnight Magic. He was third fastest in our first round of competition. But those times are thrown out. These four start over in the shootout. Shuts it down. Oh, he just barely kept it in bounds. Look at that. It may be less than an inch from being disqualified. And Midnight Magic, Dave Ray, what a super shot. And look at this. 1.916 was his time earlier, and that's what he's got right now. He comes back with another shot at 1.916. Midnight Magic and Dave Ray. All right, our next competitor coming out. This will be Insanity. Jeff Acker out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Boy, he really hit it good. He doesn't seem to like it, but it looked to me like he cut it very, very nicely. We'll have to wait on the time. It looks like he got through in really good shape. He didn't seem happy with it at all. Obviously, he might have gotten out of the throttle a little quicker than he had planned on it. See, he goes into the lead. 1.896. Insanity sits number 1 right now. Super Trooper, Tom Martin. Let's see. He was able to get under Insanity a little bit earlier. He's going to try it again. So far, everybody's time has basically mirrored what they did earlier. Nobody's been able to add much. Tom Martin and Super Trooper lays down another superlative shot. Is it good enough to beat 1.896 of Insanity? We'll watch it on the replay. The 3-time U.S. Hot Rod World Champion coming through the mud in a hurry. And out of Portage, Indiana, Tom Martin and the Super Trooper moves into the number 1 spot. Tom Martin has taken the lead, and only one more has a shot at it. This will be Naturally Wired Rich Marcin, and he has got to lay down his best shot ever to beat Tom Martin and the Super Trooper. Let's see if Naturally Wired can come up with the shot he needs right here. Shuts it down in time. It's a legal run. We'll watch the replay and watch the clock to see if it was enough. Spins at the line just a little bit, and he comes up a little bit short of the mark. It's 2.05 the time for Naturally Wired and Rich Marcin. He'll end up 4th in the shootout, but your winner is Tom Martin and the Super Trooper as he comes away with the victory. His time 1.890. Insanity and Jeff Acker goes in the number 2 spot. Dave Ray and Midnight Magic finishes 3rd. Then Rich Marcin is 4th and Naturally Wired. But it's Tom Martin's day at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island in New York. Tom Martin and the Super Trooper wins another U.S. Hot Rod Mud Battle. Monsters are next. The Final Four has become very significant and special in the world of sports, and we're down to our Final Four with the monster trucks in the Houston Astrodome as a great crowd looks on. Here's the semifinal round lineup. Taurus, the Chevy-powered GMC, will meet the Overkill Ford. Then a pair of Chevrolets, Barefoot, going up against the Master of Disaster. Marty Garza, the Overkill Ford, the lone Texan still alive in this competition, going up now against the favorite, former world champion Jack Willman's Taurus GMC with the Chevy power ready to come after him. Taurus opens up a big lead on the first half of the course. Beautiful turn. Jack Willman is flat in control as he blows Overkill away. Boy, barely working up a sweat. What about Taurus? Jack Willman, that Chevrolet power, taking him all the way out with ease. And Taurus will move into the championship matchup against one of these two Chevrolets. The Barefoot Chevrolet, Fred Schaefer, former world champion from Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Or the upstart today, the Master of Disaster, Doug Spanier from Albany, Minnesota, the longtime monster truck veteran. These are two guys who have been through the wars. Let's see who's got what it takes in the dome. Master seems to have the edge into the turn. However, Barefoot's making a much better turn. Master swung very wide. Now the advantage belongs to Barefoot. And Fred Schaefer, oh, Master Disaster almost flipped it on its side at the end of the run. He pulls it back down, but it's too late. Barefoot has captured the victory. Watch the replay. Barefoot clearly takes control on the turn. Now watch Master of Disaster trying to make up some ground. He gets it really sideways, but pulls it back down. Barefoot and Taurus, the longtime rivals, the nemesis, the guys who have battled over the last couple of years for the World Championships on the U.S. Hot Rod Association Tour, will now meet in the Monster Truck Finals right here on Super Trax. Hope you're ready for this when you talk about Star Wars on the U.S. Hot Rod Association. It's the Chevy-powered GMC from Granite City, Illinois. That, of course, is Taurus and Jack Willman against this former world champion, Fred Schaefer, and the Barefoot Chevrolet from Pontoon Beach, Illinois. This is what it's all about, the main event, the championship in the Houston Astrodome. All they need now is a green light. They're waiting for it. And it's showtime. Taurus with a slight edge to the turn, but Barefoot has made some great turns today. However, not this time. He missed the turn. Barefoot missed the turn, and Taurus can coast home. Taurus looks like he's lost power. Taurus lost power. What an incredible final. Taurus will win it, despite the fact that he stalled on the cars. I thought I'd seen everything watching monster truck racing, but this beats all. Two former world champions, and both of them make huge mistakes. First, it's Barefoot. Fred Schaefer just flat misses the turn. Watch as he cannot keep it in his lane. He skids off the turn, and he can't get it straightened out. Taurus may have glanced at him, and Jack Willman got too much air, bounced down, and let his truck die. Any other time tonight, or any other time just about anywhere, he would have been beaten. But Fred Schaefer was sitting dead in the water because he missed the turn. So Taurus is able to restart the engine, and despite probably being a little embarrassed, Jack Willman's going to take the big trophy all the way back to Granite City, Illinois. Incredible final run and a big smile. Jack Willman knows he got a big break on this day, but it's kind of justice because he had the best truck all day here on Super Trax. And despite the strange final, Willman will take the win back to Granite City, Illinois. So Taurus defeats Barefoot in the final. Always the best motorsports action is yours every week right here on Super Trax. I'm Scott Douglas. See you next week with the U.S. Hot Rod Association right here on Super Trax.